Welcome, everybody. You've built a map.
We've been through 3 seasons of understanding mental health in the modern world.
Season 4 is building on the understanding.
This season, we're going to go domain by domain: work, home, digital, relationships, identity, and take a look at what it actually means to design the spaces that you're occupying.
Not optimize it, not discipline your way through it.
Create it.
Either you're designing your field
Or something else is.
Welcome to Roaming Mind Season 4.
To me, this one is a little more forward-facing rather than just up until this point. Okay, across 4 seasons, we have strictly looked at altering those frameworks retrospectively in order to kind of design. I say design. Yeah, let's go with that one. Design the life that we want to live.
Yeah.
This one kind of maybe puts it into a different perspective, just a little bit. It's not completely different. It's not like, oh my God, mind blowing. What? Because there's still a lot of that retrospective nature, but it really is more about moving forward.
Well, that all makes sense once we get into the crux of the episode and we start really divulging and pulling apart the meat off the bone. It'll make more sense what the point you're trying to get at.
Yeah, unfortunately, my brain is at like 40% capacity, so that's okay. But we make it.
No, we make it, but that's actually a good transition for what we're going to be talking about today. Because today is what the main thing we'll be talking about, and we'll be going into more details about it, is having that experience where everything in life kind of seems to be aligned. People said the stars aligned for me. That's what a lot of people say. Or people be like, I'm really having a lucky moment in life right now. Maybe it was you had a couple rough months and then things seems to clear up and you're in this honeymoon phase, as some can say, about how you are viewing your life at the comparative to other parts of your life. And those moments seem fleeting, and then boom, something happens or something changes and it goes into another direction, not necessarily a bad direction. Well, maybe there's a peak, and then obviously always when there's a peak, there's always the calm down effect of it. It may not go to all the way to the bottom, but you notice that change of way. A couple months ago, I was here, and maybe I'm here now. What happened? And going back to the thing, I'm not saying you had, but trying to relate it to what you just said. You're at 40% today, but maybe yesterday you were at 100%. So now you had that dip,
right?
And
so that's actually a really interesting comparison, and kind of it sets it up for this perfect kind of example, because we talk about these moments where the stars align, and okay, so what does that moment look like? And I can tell you that before, I remember, especially when I was really trying to pick up the basic pieces of my life. Okay, we're talking ground zero, just completely down and out. This was over a decade ago now. There were always these moments, and they came infrequently. Okay, not super duper often, but not far enough away to where I couldn't make the correlation between the two. I was like, I know it. I've had this experience before. They would be like hour, maybe 2, where everything just kind of, I'm going to use the term effortless, because I think that is the most accurate way of describing it. If we sit back and think about it, life is, in the most like bleakest of senses, a never-ending pit of despair. Not despair. That's wrong. Sorry. A never-ending pit of suffering. there's no way really around it. We will all experience suffering on a continuing basis at any given point in time. And like I said, I know that sounds super bleak, but that doesn't mean that it has to be. We've got necessary suffering. We have unnecessary suffering. Necessary is just kind of what happens to you, and life is never. It's never just like, oh yeah, dude, I walked in and everything was great and there was no problems. There was no nothing. Nobody fought me. Nobody tried to stop me from doing what I wanted. That's unrealistic. The unnecessary suffering is really what we've kind of been talking about. It's that mental idea of this is what happened to me and this is what I chose to do with it. There are moments in time where all of that unnecessary suffering just melts away and it doesn't matter. And life is effortless. It does not mean that suffering doesn't go away, because suffering is still there.
Yeah.
It's suffering is an inevitable part of existence. But the unnecessary part is how we view it. And so as I'm picking up the fantastic crumbs of my life that I had over a while back, I guess it was definitely it was like a decade and a half ago now. Wow, that's a long time ago. There would always be these brief moments where all of that unnecessary suffering just faded away. And for whatever reason, I could sit there and be like, yes, I'm okay for an hour. Right? That's all it took to make me that happy, okay? Back then. But interestingly enough, I mean, you gotta take them where you can get it, I guess. That's why it was interesting that you brought up at that point that you did earlier, because yesterday was effortless. Yesterday was so effortless, it was disgusting. I went and I did the warm-ups for Kung Fu with all the kids, and a bunch of much younger kids, okay, 5, 6, 7. And I'm not telling you I'm bad with kids, but dude, it was so easy to handle them yesterday. They sit there and try to bully me all they want, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever, and we move on with our lives. But it doesn't always go that way. You know, like, sometimes I'm like, God damn, this little kid doesn't shut up. I'm gonna kick him out. Not actually, obviously, but that's a big deal. And the more and more that I come to understand these things, and the more and more that I get a new framework and the language that we actually use, the more and more that it becomes effortless to go ahead and engage with the world.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's not just about the framework, because the framework addresses more structural side of things. When we have those frameworks, we can begin to work with them. We can begin to sit there and say, oh, this is just me unnecessarily suffering. I've been doing it all morning because my brain and body is working at such a diminished capacity. I've recognized it. I haven't acted on it. I haven't lost my shiz on anybody. I'm just like, right now is not okay. That's a big deal to be able to have that language for. And so we have that structural piece. We have the frameworks that get altered in order to go ahead and interact differently. Now we've got the relational aspect of, hey, I'm not okay. Stop fucking with me, please. And then we have those more environmental things that we haven't even discussed. It's pretty dreary out today. It's actually a little rainy and not so great, so that could be adding to the mood as well. But there also are some structural issues going on biologically and internally, and that is causing, in turn, then, that more unnecessary side of things. But again, being able to recognize that, it makes everything about today so much easier, It's not about, and I think we've done a pretty good job. Correct me if I'm wrong. Very rarely do we sit there and go, well, you just need another tool. Here's another tool for you. Go try this tool. See if it works for you. We've talked about tools. We've talked about it's okay to use light. That's probably a bad example because light is such an inherent biological need. But we I don't know, man. I forget. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I have the memory to be able to, like, we talked about this tool on this day and this tool on this day. I don't remember, but I know we've definitely talked about some of them. But we've talked about them in a way that allows you to be able to make use of them or not make use of them, dependent upon where it is that you are at in that moment. And that is what is key, because not all tools are going to work at every point in time for that specific moment. We have to be able to recognize, oh, this is the time that I use this tool. This is the time that I use this tool. Having that framework and having that language is just as important as having 8 million tools in the toolbox. Because if you don't know when to use the tool, in no way, shape, or form am I going to be able to hammer a nail with a screwdriver. I guess one could argue, I could use the back end of it.
You could find it. Is it meant to do that? No, but if you were desperate and that's the only thing available, you could make it work.
It
Which is
might
actually
work.
which it makes sense. Again, not every tool is going to fit neatly into your problem because again, we are complex human beings, and there's several things going on at a second at a time with us. So sometimes you may have a tool, and the tool may not be exactly what it's the purpose for, but if you can rearrange and figure out a creative way to use a tool, it could help get the task done.
What you're effectively talking about is taking effective action based off
Mhm.
of what it is that we know about the situation. Sure. Okay. If we want to use that screwdriver example again, maybe we can get the nail hammered in. If it's a light enough nail, if the wood isn't too thick, we can give it our best go. But it is much better and more effective to be able to use that appropriate tool. It is
Oh yeah.
much more efficient to be able to pick up the hammer and say, oh, cool. Then
Yep.
like sit there with a screwdriver for 45 minutes going, "Eeeh!" And this is the thing. It doesn't matter how much motivation you have to get that nail in. If you're using the wrong tool and it's not happening, it's not going to happen. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you are the most disciplined person. You're like, I'm just going to sit here for the next 3 days. Bong, bunk, bunk, bunk. You can sit there for 3 days and not get anywhere. You
Mhm.
can sit there for months at a time and not get anywhere because you're using the wrong tools.
Mhm.
Frameworks are great. Frameworks are wonderful. I love all of them. I try to update mine as frequently as humanly possible. What's the problem with frameworks?
They're constantly changing. They may not
Well,
always be.
I would argue that that's actually a strength, but I hear you. Because if they're constantly changing, that means that we can constantly be getting better, which I like. I can see why you would say it's a problem.
And
I get it.
I see your point of I see your we see each other. We see
Yeah, definitely. The biggest problem is that it's only one piece of the puzzle. It
this.
is strictly up here. Frameworks exist strictly inside of the mind. It's the way that we perceive things. It's the way that we operate in these things. What's the other piece of the puzzle?
Framework, agency.
That's a part of the framework.
Oh, I want to say willingness.
It goes
Oh,
along with it.
action.
Action,
Action.
right? Yeah. You have to take the action. That's what makes frameworks alone more difficult. If uh, again, I can walk into a therapist's office and I can sit there and I can go, well, I just feel so bad every time that I watch this movie, and it relieves all my past traumas, and I just don't know what's to do about it. And then I go home and I watch the movie anyway. Right? That's great. You have the framework, you have the language, you know what it's doing. But if you're not taking the action, you're screwed either way.
Sorry.
You okay? I, I,
Like, what
I
is
don't
this
know where I
talk
came from.
now? What is that? What is that? Some weird New England Southerner lady? What is it?
I don't know, man. I'm telling you, it's been a weird day.
Uh, uh,
Oh,
uh,
jeez. Oh,
sorry.
man. No, you're totally fine.
Ooh, there you go.
Oh, man. So that's kind of what we're left over with is we have to take the action. We have to take these things and put it into practice. And it's not always like, okay, so we've talked about this. We take an action and it doesn't always change instantaneously. It's not like, boom, man, I sat there, I listened to these two idiots on the internet. They talked a whole bunch of bullshit, and then my life just instantaneously shifted. It doesn't happen that way. And even if, okay, so you took one or two actions here and there and you saw this much of a shift, but you're looking for this much of a shift and you're like, well, they must be full of shit. No, it takes time. If you see this much of a shift based off of anything that has been discussed on through any of our time, the long-term shift is going to be much, much bigger because you're going to get this shift, but constantly over that sustained period of time. Look at that. Our fourth dimension, temporal. Ooh. I've been waiting to work that one in for so goddamn long. It's disgusting. Finally found a relevant place. And so I guess the question that it brings up is, well, what does life look like when we design things in this way? It's not going to be peak performance, and that may come as a result, and that's going to be a thing. It is not going to be the immediate victory that you are so hoping, that we're all hoping. I'm hoping for immediate victory. Shit, get me as much relief as you possibly can this quick. However, if I wanted that, then I would just go and take modern pharmaceuticals because that's what that's geared at. Well, what have we found with modern day pharmaceuticals? It's not an easy process. If you're fortunate enough to find the right one, and I say if, that is something that takes just as long as what we're talking about. The big difference is we don't have any weird chemical shifts that are unintended that will cause us undue discomfort or unwarranted discomfort. That sounds about right. Unwarranted discomfort. Stuff that we didn't sign up for.
Yeah, unwarranted, because undue, because could have consequences from what we're talking about, because nothing is consequence for you.
Yeah, certainly. But we're talking, and so the cool thing is that when you start to implement these frameworks and you start to take action in any sort of way across any of the domains that we have discussed, the friction, that unnecessary suffering, begins to fall by the wayside, right? We don't have to give in to that unnecessary suffering. Suffering is a part of it. Life still happens. There's no way around that, but we don't have to make it worse. we can make decisions much, much quicker. Oh, I don't know. Do I want the pink one or do I want the purple one? Do I want the yellow one? This is a very trivial decision, figuring out the color
Yeah.
of something that you want. But I use that triviality to be able to show that these are decisions that people will harp on for days. You're like, I don't know. It's just not the right color for me. I don't think that's a good thing. That's a second decision and over with. And if we can do that for a trivial decision, we can also do that for more monumental decisions because, again, using these frameworks, we know exactly where it is that we want to go and what it is that we want. We may make a decision and then be like, maybe that wasn't what I wanted. But ideally, we haven't done that across something that is, we've thought about exactly what will happen as a result of these choices, and we know what's going to happen. We're going to go ahead and do it. And if it doesn't work out that way, we then have the ability to be able to shift focus and to be able to say, oh, cool. Don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to go do this instead. I know that's a lot easier said than done, especially in certain contexts, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. Our lived patterns, okay, our habitual patterns that we have lived by forever, they start to break down, and we don't have those same. We'll still have patterns, we'll still have habitual patterns, but we will be able to reshape those habitual thought patterns and those habitual patterns of behavior so that our life begins to make a little bit more sense to us. It begins to look like what it is that we were after ever since we were a wee little lad. Oh, that was terrible. Ever since we were really tiny, we had some sort of idea, and then what happens, we kind of get lost along the way. With this, we don't get lost along the way because we actively played a decision in where it was that we were going. We actively said, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. Let me go ahead and make it happen.
Yeah.
And again, when all of these things occur, we know how to describe it. We know how to talk about it. One of the biggest problems in this lifetime is communication. If I can't communicate to you what it is that I need or what it is that I am going through, we are going to experience friction. You ever tried to talk to somebody in a different language? It gets real interesting when you don't know the language. And most people that I've encountered don't want to sit there and keep trying and trying and trying to figure out what it is that you're saying, unless it's 100% necessary. If I don't have to talk to you, I'm not
going to talk to you.
Right. Especially if the friction cost is just too high. If I have to, we're going to figure it out, but it's not going to be easy. So really what we have is not the absence of suffering, not the absence of any issues, but we have the absence of unnecessary suffering, and we have an environment around us that has been deliberately chosen so that we can sit there and say, oh, I did this to get here. So then I'm going to have to do something just a little bit different in order to get to where I actually want to get to. So you just don't have that, oh my God, how did I get here? What is going to happen to me? It goes out the window. You don't have to worry about that anymore. You can just say, all right, well, this choice got me to here. Let me go ahead and make some different choices so that I can get to here and here. That's okay. That's exactly where it is that we want to get to.
And going on this of what you said, I think what we have to look as is what happens when your environment and those different fields aligned, when everything kind of falls into place. And we so when you does because a lot of throughout this season, almost as an episode season, we've talked about fields and environment and how we have the agency to design and create those fields for ourselves. When everything that we've kind of touched base upon are kind of going and we start moving in the right direction, that's the crux of our we that kind of gets you to that place of everything is feeling okay. Everything is like you're having your lucky moment, you're having your stars aligning moment. But it's not by luck, it's because you've designed and you've created some of it by luck. It may not everything is always going to be intentional. There may be some unintentional. I'm just have to get out.
Mhm.
People be like, well, you know,
Yeah, I understand.
but you've created those systems and those fields to lead you to that moment. And it's okay when after the peak, there's a little bit of a dip, because those things, what are the two things that we said are guaranteed in life?
Mhm.
What?
Yeah, and I think that the other really important thing to keep in mind is just that these things continuously build on each other over time in both directions. So if you have that suffering, you have things that are going to happen in this lifetime. That's okay. You have an environment around you that this problem exists inside of. And this environment around you is either going to be conducive to getting you beyond that problem onto the next one, because that's what's going to happen, or it's going to deter you and it's going to magnify that problem tenfold. The choice then becomes up to you. So if we think about those more like structural aspects, we think about some things like biology. If I'm like severely unhealthy, and I mean severely unhealthy, I don't know, whatever the case may be, this could just be I have some sort of illness that makes it more difficult to motivate. That's a very real structural constraint that can bleed everywhere else and then make that problem much more difficult to overcome. Or I still have that structural issue, but everything else can kind of be in order the way that I need it to be. And the likelihood of me moving beyond that problem, and I'm not talking about getting over major illnesses. That's not what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
literally just talking about dealing with life on a day-to-day basis. It makes the likelihood of gaining beyond that much better, because again, these effects compound on everything over time. It's not just something that's like, oh, well, I'm sick today, so I guess I'm screwed. I can't do anything. If that was the case, I don't think anybody would ever do anything, because there have been plenty of people who have severe structural constraints that have gone on to do some amazing things. Interestingly enough, most of these people that have, maybe not most, but there are a good amount of people that have very severe structural constraints that end up going and doing highly impressive things that most people who don't have any constraint will never achieve in their lifetime.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But again, they understand something that's a little bit different. They can go ahead and determine where it is that they want their life to go. They understand that when they wake up in the morning, I have a framework and a mindset of here, or I have a framework and a mindset of here. One gets you to where you want to go, one doesn't. And so when we think about it, it's like, all right, well, what cost is this going to take? Is this going to be something that I have to add 6 more tools in order to do? And I don't think that that's that difficult. The biggest issue that you have are the emotional pieces. It's,
Yeah.
am I going to hold on to who I've been? Am I going to be able to move beyond fear and try something that I've never done before? And I acknowledge that is a very
Yeah.
difficult task for us. It's not, we like especially in America, we like comfort. We like security. We have built an entire country on comfort and security. One of my favorite lines that I don't think I'll ever forget from George Carlin was, "Airport security is bullshit. They can't make an airport completely safe. Too many people have access to it. Airport security is designed for one reason: the illusion of safety and security. It is an illusion." That's okay. I'm not like attacking TSA. I don't want to get down that road, but I do. It is, that's just a side tangent, so I'm just gonna chop it off and be done with it. The easiest way to get started is to just take one thing, look at it and be like, is this what I want? Did I deliberately choose this? What would it look like if I did something a little bit different? And chances are you're gonna, you can come up with a couple of different things. Don't just come up with one, because if we just come up with one, then the chances are we're going to be left with something that we may not fully want.
That's true.
If we think about it from a development standpoint, predominantly we have ideas from what we've observed based off of how we grew up. That could be 2 ways of existence. That could be 3, depending on who we grew up with. There are any number of combinations in there, but a lot of us have just those 2 ways. And so if we only look at things 2 ways, chances are we came up with the 2 ways with which we've observed the most throughout our lifetime. So come up with a few. Come up with 4 or 5 and be like, that's really interesting. I've never actually thought about it like that. This would be interesting to pursue because this looks like something that I would really, really enjoy. I've never seen anybody do it that way, but I know that there is an action that I can take to begin to start to see if that's going to be the thing that I like doing. It's interesting because not a lot of people in my... I'm going to preface this. My family doesn't love cooking. My immediate family, my parents, it's not that they don't, but they're not like, they are just as happy going to the biggest, shittiest, nastiest place and getting chicken nuggets and french fries than going to a place and that's okay. That's not a big deal. Now, generationally, I had a great grandmother who cooked, but that was one of the things. It was just one of the things that she did. I cook all the time, and I cook in a way that they would never have even thought about cooking before. That is strictly because I was like, oh, seems like a really neat idea. Let's try this out. This is something that I know for a fact nobody in my family was like, oh, let's go start throwing meat over open flames. They just weren't doing it. And not to say that that's not a poo-poo on them. It's just how it was. But if I didn't have those mentalities, if I didn't have that framework, I wouldn't have even been able to make that decision in the first place to be able to say, oh, man, this is okay. And it's not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's not about having perfect conditions. We're not looking for perfection.
I mean, the thing is, those perfect conditions are never going to, because what we talked about, even with because even if you went everything online, you still have suffering. That's the word.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep.
You still have suffering. So there's always going to be something that is going to be holding you back. That's what, and when an athlete gets injured, they're never back 100% of what they were at before. They can still play the game. They can still do what they were doing before, but there's always something that is slightly not perfect or where they were at before. So there's always going to be issues. So trying to wait for the perfect moment is sometimes an excuse that people use to refrain themselves from really going forward to get those things. Because going back to it will push you out of your comfort zone. And if you've done a risk analysis, like as a person, that's how I think of risk and reward. And if you the risk and reward are about equal,
Mhm.
sometimes you might be like, well, okay, I'm willing to take the risk, but I don't have the quote unquote perfect conditions to really go and take the risk. But it's just a way of talking yourself out of really going for what you need to do.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I think you summed it up quite well. We don't need perfect we don't need those conditions because those conditions we'll never be able to satisfy those conditions. What we need are two things. We just need a framework and a willingness to take action on even the smallest thing. Willingness, I tell people all the time, man, willingness goes a very, very long way.
Mhm.
Without willingness, you have nothing. If you are not 100% committed and willing, and let me rephrase that. If you are 100% committed and willing, you have a very strong chance of being able to make significant, drastic changes in your life and a incredible opportunity to be able to achieve a state of mental well-being, and we'll call it that, that most people are never going to get the opportunity to be able to undertake. So that's great. Where are we at now?
Okay.
We spent a few seasons, we spent 3, really building literacy, looking at how 21st century life is different than prior, looking at mental models that perpetuate well-being and that speak to mentally healthy mechanisms and how that applies to our life with technology these days, how we go about altering those mental models, those frameworks. And then this season we really looked at how to apply all of those things and what that kind of looks like. So we don't have at this point, you don't have a completely redesigned field. That's okay. You're going to completely be redesigning it for the rest of your being because of time. And time changes everything. We must continuously update. We are like software. It it needs to be updated. Hopefully, you do not get to a point where you stop updating because that is where software goes to die. That is where it all just gets neglected and forgot about. And you're operating on systems with 20-year-old, 30-year-old models. We want to constantly be updating those things. But you've got should have a pretty solid understanding of why your life looks the way it does
Yeah.
and what it is that you can do to be able to work on reconfiguring it in a positive and intentional manner. Again, that's not small, that's huge.
Oh, yeah.
Most people will not get to that point.
That's perfect. A good example, for example, laws on the internet. A lot of laws
Mhm,
on the internet were made when the internet first came out in the 80s and 90s. But the internet has drastically changed in the last 40 years. And now we don't have laws on the book to really be able to kind of regulate what's going on. So there's a lot of issues now that people, because and the problem is because a lot of bureaucracies and red tape, things don't
mhm,
move as fast as they can. So
mhm,
those unwillingness to change creates a lot of friction. But if we were able to really be moving with the times, we can be catching up on all these things that that will be beneficial for everybody as a whole. That's just my little side
mhm,
tangent of giving an example to really guide some idea or something that people can understand and see. Because sometimes when we talked about mental models, frameworks, people don't really understand because it's not that it's a hard concept,
hmm
but it's a concept that really you have to look at your own life and really assess it and see how things are going. And we are not, we're both the best arbiters of our life and also the worst arbiters of life. Because if we want to lie to ourselves, we can easily lie to ourselves and convince ourselves of the most grandiose and wrong things
hmm
and make them feel like reality to ourselves.
I just want to highlight two really interesting things that you said. The cool thing is that you are not a bureaucracy, whereas it takes a while to update inside of a bureaucracy. You are a bureaucracy of one. Which is whatever, not a bureau, whatever. I don't give a
Well,
fuck.
you don't know.
Leave me
Fred,
alone. No, I'm
Fred, and Emma, you don't know what's going on
yeah,
here.
right. So you can update instantaneously as needed. And then there was something else that you said that towards the end that was really important that I wanted to fucking highlight too.
Was it people lying to themselves, not be able to
Oh,
listen?
yes. The delusional aspect of things. Yes,
Yeah.
it is 100% possible for you to sit there and lie to yourself. However, if you are taking honest self-assessment and you are incorporating these frameworks, the ability to lie to yourself drops drastically because you are paying attention not only to you, but to what is going on around you in a way that pertains to you because you are taking agency. You're not sitting there and saying, oh, well, it's just that person's fault or it's just this fault. It's not that, right? You are looking at the environment in a way that says, okay, this was on me. I did this. This is how this goes. And so it should drastically remove that. You have to really want it. You have to really want to lie to yourself in order to make that happen.
So well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for joining us on
Mm-hmm.
another crazy season, listening to these two well, dumb bitches
Right.
talking about
Another
things that are
crazy
passionate about.
season.
And hopefully you found stuff from season one, season two, and now season four to be really beneficial and really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to leave with everybody at the end of this season is you don't need to have all the answers at the same time. Like no answer is going to pop up because
Mm-hmm.
things are constantly changing. The question ultimately is knowing those structural shift, knowing when your field is overload, knowing things that we've discussed throughout this season, and knowing the why, and knowing how to begin to design and moving forward from that, and making those necessary choices to make your life better. It's not going to come over the course of a day. It's not even a week. And ultimately, it may not even be in the lifetime, but what you can do is make it better while you're still here. Make those changes, make those structural changes to begin moving forward to the life that you desired. You know what the structure is. What you do with it is within your hand, and we will be discussing that next season as well.
If you are genuinely struggling, you can always go to theinactive.com, sign up for a session, and we'll get you through and help you to make those fantastic changes.
Namaste.
Yes, exactly.
That's where we'll leave it for today.
You don't need to do anything with it right now.
Each episode this season will end with a question worth carrying.
Not an answer, just a place to look.
If this is your first time here, you're welcome to follow the show. New episodes drop weekly.
And if you want to go deeper, find us at theactive.com.
We'll be back next week.
Until then, notice what you're already designing your field.
And whether that's by choice.